All right, so welcome to Clay is a four-letter word. Hi, Mike. How you doing? Good to talk to you again after we were just talking like 10 seconds ago. We'll pretend like we're starting over. So,
of course.
So welcome to Clay is a four-letter word. This is my little podcasting I'm doing. I have Mike. Is it Mike Regan or Reagan?
It's Regan.
Okay, yeah. I guess it's just the U.S. history part of me saw it and like added some stupid political U.S. thing. So Mike Regan, you go by MikeFX on Instagram, and that's kind of your handle across the board. I take it.
As much as I can. There's some places I can't get it, but
Is a popular name?
I guess I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like you have a really cool background because your background in ceramics is kind of coming to ceramics later in life with a artistic background before. Is that right?
A lot later, yeah. I mean, I've sort of been a sculptor, work in the motion picture, the creature effects field for a long time, about 30 years. So I come from like I know mold making and I know sculpting, but not necessarily the specifics of ceramics. So just kind of one day went, hey, I like that. I was really inspired by I think he goes by Turkey Merc on Instagram. I love those zombie cups, and I was like, I got to be able to sculpt my own, and I know mold making if I can just figure out slip casting. And like nobody will tell you how to do slip casting. If you got any of these ceramics places, they're like, "Oh, we don't do slip casting. It's too messy. It's too this. It's too that.
It's its own animal."
Yeah. So I mean, I went and took one of those like 3-hour wheel throwing ceramics things and had a lot of fun and actually turned out some pretty decent bowls. And they were like, "Oh, you've done this before?" And I'm like, "I don't know, maybe when I was in kindergarten with a kick wheel or something. I don't even remember." But they were like, "Well, we have open spaces on the shelves if you want to rent a spot and join." And I think I was joined to the place for like a month or two, and then just suddenly went like, "Oh, this is taking too long to get pieces fired and all that." And it's still wheel throwing, which isn't really what I want to do. I'd like throw pieces, and then I'd take them home and I'd like sculpt on them and put cool handles on them and everything. Take them back in, get them fired, and completely mess up the glaze, and then go like, "Oh, it's garbage. I don't like it." I got to figure out that slip casting, which I eventually did. Now mostly I'm doing slip casting, although I'm starting to sort of lean the other direction. I kind of want to try doing some hand building and get back to some wheel throwing. I kind of want to play with it, so it's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's really cool. So, I mean, you have this incredible background before you got into ceramics. So, do you want to kind of tell us how you got into that whole special effects? Like, if you want to get into that a little, because I mean, that's fascinating to me as on this end of the ceramics kind of side. Like, that's such a cool like background.
Sure. It all started back when I was about 10 or 11 years old. Really, I loved like the films Ray Harryhausen and stop motion animation, and I just suddenly one day was convinced that's what I was going to do. I was going to become a stop motion animator, and bought a little home camera and was sculpting little blobby looking things out of clay and animating and doing little tests. And suddenly one day I was like, "Oh, well, this is taking a long time to do. What if I like make a mold of it out of plaster and cast it in rubber? I can make a hand puppet out of it and film it. And it takes a lot less time. And if it doesn't turn out, I'll redo it. It's because I'll have a puppet." So scoured the libraries and sci-fi conventions, looking for every book I could on like mask making and all that stuff, and just kind of started just immersing myself in that at the tender age of like 12 years old.
That's amazing.
Rather weird. I didn't have much life. I even started to like, school would drop off because I go, American history. How is this going to help me learn how to make monsters?
That's awesome.
I just didn't care. Obviously until I came time to graduate, and my parents were like, "Well, look, you have two choices. You either go to the military or you go to college. You have to do one or the other." And I was like, "Oh, no choice there. I'm going to college." Although I've already researched this, I don't need college to get into makeup effects. And they were like, "Well, it's a backup plan. You have to do it." And I was like, "Okay, whatever." I did about a year, maybe a year and a half of college, I got into an FX shop. I basically called every FX shop in the Valley.
So you grew up in LA? You grew up in the
Yeah.
Valley? I was going to ask you,
Oh,
like, you grew up in
yeah.
Southern California?
Yeah, I lived here all my life.
Okay.
So I was going to Northridge College, which, it's middle of the valley, and I was calling places, within half an hour of where I was. And one guy was like, "Yeah, come on in. I think we need somebody in box." So I'm like, "Great." Drive over, 5 o'clock traffic, like don't want to be late. And he was like, looked at the book and was like, "Yeah, we need somebody. And when can you start?" And I was like, "Right now." And he was like, "Well, how about Monday? Be here Monday. And then with college, I went in and had an a counselor look and kind of go, "Well, you're only taking 2 classes this semester. What's the deal?" And I was like, "Well, I'm working at an effects shop." And he's like, "That's what you want to do, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "So go do that. When you're not doing that, come back to school." I've never not been doing it enough to go back to school.
Yeah, that's
Um,
awesome.
I, my parents weren't happy. They were very much like, "We don't support this decision, and if you do this, you're doing it on your own." But at that point, I was so strong-minded about it. I made it work.
That's awesome.
I
That's like
was
what it's all
just like,
about,
I have
Follow
to
your
this work.
dreams.
So
That's
so
amazing.
I'm still doing it 30 years later. So it's
That's
not a
so
bad thing.
cool. How do your parents feel about it now? Or
Um,
since you kind of,
they're much better about it now. About, I'd say, 10 years into my doing it, they started to warm up to it, and then about 15 years in, they kind of went, "Yeah, he's the one kid that we don't worry about. If we don't hear from him, we just know it's because he's busy, but
because you're
we
working.
don't worry about him."
That's
So,
that's that's really cool. So, so you got into Hollywood, or you got into the special effects in
mm.
Hollywood. What were some of the like? I guess what were like some of the movies that you worked on that we would know?
Well, very first film I worked on was Nightmare on Elm Street 5. So I'd always been a fan of the Freddy films. So I was like, "Great, I'm working on films that I grew up with." So I
And
worked on
you're
five,
like
six,
20 or
and seven.
something,
What's this?
and you're like 20 or 21, or you're young.
Oh, at that time, yeah,
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 that's
yeah. I
awesome.
was 20. I think I was 20.
Were you like the youngest person in the special effects shop, or were there other younger people?
I At the time I was. I think there was one other guy who was my age who was also working there, but everyone else was older.
Yeah,
It's weird. It's come full circle. I'm still working with some of the same people, so they're equally older now, and I'm still the young guy. But I go to shops now, and I realize I'm that guy turning around going, "Ah, you're you young fucker." It's
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That's
it's
how it
weird.
goes. So 30,
No,
you said 30 years? You've been 20, 30
30
years you've
years.
been there?
I just turned 50 in March. I'm an old
Okay.
man.
Yeah, that's not that old. You're just getting started.
Now I heard you and Tim last episode going, "Yeah, 40, 41, 40. Oh, 40 is the new 30. We're not old.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
I'm
I don't
sitting here,
know. It's
40-year-olds. You don't even know."
Yeah, I mean, physically we get older, and I know that's part of it. Like I feel it sometimes now. Like I have little kids, and like we sit on the floor, and I'll be on the floor like Indian style for too long, or
Help Dad
crisscross
get up.
applesauce, whatever it's called, and
Yeah.
I'll get up, and it's like, oh, my hips and my legs, and like, what the heck? Like I'm not used to this, but mentally we're still young, and with
Yeah.
we're more aware of like how to take care of ourselves, and
Well,
we're
the
you
body
know
stuff. It's just an indicator you need to move around more. All
yeah.
the
Yeah, I'm lucky I have young kids and my job keeps me on my feet, so I don't get
Yeah.
too like landlocked and sitting down. Only when I'm out in the garage, I'll like be sitting for too long.
Yeah.
So Nightmare on Elm Street. What other like
Nightmare on Elm Street. I think I worked on about uh, 7 Hellraiser movies.
It's so
Um,
cool.
so a bunch of those. Uh, Worked on Men in Black 1 and 2. Worked on one of the Nutty Professor films. Worked on The Grinch. A bunch of stuff.
That's
It just
cool.
keeps going. A lot of kind of low budgety.
Yeah.
It's weird to say direct to video now because nothing's really direct to video anymore. But
Direct to
a
Netflix
lot of
or
direct to video horror at the time.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Those like yeah,
Yeah.
were there what was like the most like ambitious, like what was the one project where you're like, wow, this is gonna take like this one monster is gonna be like the end of me, or like have you had one of those?
Um, No, I mean they're all ambitious. I think the only one that was kind of even remotely like that would have been the first Men in Black movie, because the job I was hired on to, since they would add ideas to the script all along, or
Uh,
um, I kind of started at it was at Rick Baker's Shops Innovation. Um, Rick's done, I think he did the effects on like the last three Men in Black movies. I don't know if he did anything on the international one that just came out. Um, but I was brought in, and I was working with another guy I'd worked with in the past, and all of the effects in the film that they didn't quite know how they were going to do or what technique they were going to use, we were kind of told, right, here's the effect, come up with like two or three ways to do it, and film video tests of it, and we're going to run these by the director. And some of them were just like insane. Um, and that was the job. And it was kind of like, I mean, I guess the big one, now that I think about it, what you said is ones that I kind of went, I don't know how this is going to work out.
yeah,
In the first Men in Black, the bad guy turns into this giant bug at the end
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
swallows Tommy Lee Jones. Um, wants to be swallowed because the bug's eaten his gun. The gun's inside the bug, and
Right, right, right.
they wanted to see Tommy Lee Jones go into the mouth of the bug, down the throat of the bug, and they wanted to see in the distended belly. They wanted to see him sort of poking around, trying to
Yeah,
get. So we were building. Uh, they were kind of like, we want you to build a sack that's translucent that we can put him in, and it's full of liquid, and he can swim around and push his hands out the sides of it, and we get this cool footage of him. So we started off, we had this really stretchy stuff, and we've kind of built this big rack, and we fill it up with water, and it's like maybe 10 gallons of water, and it kind of drops down like a big balloon. uh, and they're like, that's great, we need one bigger though, we need to be able to get a body in there. So we had literally got like those big racks like that they have at Home Depot for storing shelves, and
oh
we
yeah,
put these big platform in, and we done this big sort of gasket and this, oversized. I mean, we got this stuff called hot melt adhesive that we'd run this like inch and a half thick clear thing with these veins in it and stuff, super stretchy, and we fill it up, and it's like the water's too heavy; it drops right to the ground. So we built this sling out of spandex, and we're filling it up, and I kid you not, I believe we had about as much water as you would fill a bathtub with. And mind you, this is all just for a test still, and this is like built just using wood and whatever we can find. And they watched the test, and we could get like the upper half of someone's body in there, and they're like, "That's great, but we need one even bigger." And I was like, "Guys, this is imagine the weight. I mean, how many gallons does a bathtub hold? And let's
right.
figure out how much does a gallon of water weigh? Multiply that by, it's a bathtub like 30, 40 gallons.
Yeah,
You go, this is going to weigh, reinforcing and welding a steel frame for a test." And they kind of went, well, let's think about this. And then we did like three or four other different ways of doing it. And we kind of did a bunch of stuff. And in the end, they didn't use any of them. They used a completely different way, and it's the weirdest shot in the movie. They basically came down to it. The director was like, "It's all about this texture," and he found this mold that we had. And he's like, "I like this texture. I want it to be this texture, the whole thing. Just make me a big sort of latex blanket with this texture on it." And I did. I made like a big giant sling of latex rubber, and they flew me out to New York with it to set it up. And I sat there for a whole day of shooting, and they went, "We're not going to get to it. We're sending you back to LA. Just leave it here." So I flew back to LA. Don't didn't Never knew what happened. But if you watch the movie, there's a cut. He swallows him. You see him go down. The whole screen turns yellow, and there's like a shadow, and then it goes back to him, and he's getting vomited out. And they put him in and backlit him, just moving inside of this latex thing, and it's the weirdest shot in the movie. It's like every time I see it, I'm like, that's the thing.
that
That's the
sucks. You think
thing
it
that
sucks or what?
I spend months testing stuff, and it makes no sense. You kind of go, "What was that?"
Yeah,
But who knows? Someone else had a, you know, someone else made the call. I wouldn't have used it,
yeah,
but that was definitely one of those things. I was just day after day making these things, going, I don't know if this is going to work. where's this going to wind up? And sure enough, it wound up being a shot that you go, what was that?
Yeah.
But who knows? It was a decent movie otherwise. But
Yeah. I remember it. It was fun. I wish I had one of those little things sometimes to make people forget everything I just said. But
oh yeah, just click. Look here.
so, and you're still working on in the special effects industry.
Oh yeah. Yep.
That's your main thing that you do. The
That's
ceramic's more of
my
like a side thing.
as long as yeah. Basically, since I'm kind of freelance, so I get hired by shops usually when they land a project. They're like, right, we need to build. Here's our build list. They'll hire a crew of people in, and we kind of work through the list, and stuff goes to set, and either we go to set or other people go to set. And when the project's done, if you're lucky, they have another project and you roll on to the next project. Or if it finishes and there's nothing else, they're kind of like, thank you for your time. We'll call you on the next one. And then you're off and calling new shops.
Yeah.
So, as much as I can, I like to keep busy and keep working on the shows. And when I'm not working on the shows, I'm in my workroom and I'm doing ceramics or doing art pieces for little galleries. I do a lot of kind of cast resin and
Yeah.
sort of mixed media pieces. I think.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. Like, how's that? Oh, kind of. How did you get into that? And like,
Yeah. Well, ceramics and basically resin toys kind of are my side gig to doing effects. Makeup effects is like the main deal. But when I'm not doing that, I kind of got into doing resin figures, what they call designer toys. It started years ago in like the 90s with FX guys were doing these things called garage kits, which were sort of illegal bootleg sculptures of your favorite film character. I did like Skeksis from the Dark Crystal. Um, and then Todd McFarlane came along and
Spawn
just
guy.
made, yeah, oh, dude, kick-ass toys that you could buy
Yeah,
for 10 or 15 bucks.
and they're amazingly detailed and like
Oh,
muscles
well,
on top of the muscles.
absolutely. And it's because he hired all of the people that were already sculpting garage kits to, you know,
Make his
the top
toys.
sculptors, and you could get them for 15 bucks a piece as opposed to a 60 to $100 figure. So
Yeah.
that scene went away and then kind of magically came back around about 5 or 6 years. Oh, no, about 10 years ago, really. And I kind of started realizing what it was about 7 years ago and went, well, I've been making little figures still in my garage. I'm like, now I have an outlet again to sell them. So I make stuff and get a table and sell stuff at, there's like a once a year convention in, it's now just moved to Anaheim. It's called Designer Con. It's in November.
Mhm.
But huge. It's at the Anaheim Convention
Yeah,
Centers.
it's like international, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's massive. I mean, it
Yeah.
takes you like an entire day to walk the dealer's room and just
And that's like comics. It's not Comic Con, right? It's what is it
no.
more of?
It
It's more like what?
it's more like if you took Artist Alley from Comic Con
Oh,
and
okay.
dumped that into Anaheim. It's
And that's the
anything
whole thing.
design oriented. You've got people that have like shirt designs, people doing plush figures, people doing resin figures, people doing woodcut, wood prints. I mean, anything design related. If you feel like you need an outlet, I don't want to say like a craft fair because it's maybe a little bit more art related than that.
And more like pop art or like more
Um,
mainstreamy, like kind of.
it's pop art, but it kind of runs the spectrum. It's like dark art, it's lowbrow art,
Yeah, like
it's some
lowbrow or.
graffiti culture. I mean, it's like everything really. It's basically anything to do with design. If
Yeah.
you have something, I mean, last year I had the cups I do, these Daruma cups, has
Yeah.
I specifically did those because in the toy industry, like there's a lot of people that design these blanks, and they collaborate with other people. Get someone's blank, and you kind of go, oh, I'm going to paint it and design it and do this to it. Someone else can take the same figure and do something completely different. So I took like two of each of these mugs, and I called like Brian Wilkerson,
Yeah.
called Tony Young,
Yeah.
and Joey Chirello out in Hawaii. And I said, look, I have some of these cups. It has a really cool face on it, so do whatever you want to the face. But the great thing is it has this whole canvas around the back of the
Mhm.
cup. I was like, I don't want to give you any direction. except to say if you research Darumas, they usually don't have pupils. Like the whole idea is that you set a goal for yourself, and when you set the goal, you draw in one pupil. When you accomplish the goal, you draw in the second pupil, and then the cup or the doll is returned to this temple where it's burned in a fire, and the whole cycle starts again.
Oh
So
wow.
I basically said, right, knowing that, do whatever you want to the cup. I don't even care. If you want to give it pupils, that's cool, but just put your own spin on it.
Yeah.
And I sent it to each of them, and they knocked out some spectacular cups. I actually had them at DesignerCon last year because I was kind of like, it feels like Tony's stuff is very street art punk feel to it.
Mhm.
I went, that
Mhm.
feels to me like something that scene of people is going to be into.
Yeah.
Um, Joey's cups. I didn't realize Joey had such an enormous fanatical fan base. He sent me back two amazing cups that I sold one. I kept one. I was like, dude, I'm buying one from you because I can't sell this one.
Yeah.
It's too good. I can't let it go. Um, and Brian turned out some just really cool cups as well. I mean, I was surprised. I figured like I might sell a couple of them, and then I'd maybe work a deal with people and trade for them. Dude, they were gone.
Really.
They were gone. It's like
I
I
think the
I
whole collaboration thing is so like I feel
I
like
love
it's
it.
kind of like a newer I feel like it's kind of a newer thing that I've seen more prevalently like amongst the ceramics community, like more
Right.
collaborations. Maybe it's me just being in the dark, but I'm noticing it more and it's like it's so fun and interesting to see how when you take two artists who
Yeah.
have similar, similarities as far as material and medium and like
Mhm.
process, but at the same time like artistically so different. It's so cool to see how artists are coming up with like new ideas. I'm looking at the stuff that I've been doing. I've been doing the sneaker mugs.
Yeah.
The sneaker culture has a huge amount of that like collaborative like artistry going on between, like I'm looking
Oh,
at the Jordans and the Jordans are like collaborating with everybody and like these
yeah.
high-end designers and people are doing customs and same thing with like the Vans. It's like you can go on the Vans website now and like do your own custom Vans. And I teach high school. Vans does this thing called custom culture where high
Uh-huh.
school students get like a high school orders 4 pairs of Vans and then they like customize them and then it's like a scholarship thing. But the whole like working together and collaborative part of art is amazing and I love to see that it's happening in ceramics. Like
Yeah.
I got to figure out a way that you and me can do a collaboration or something.
Dude, I'd like to see either the Vans Cup or maybe the Jordans, but I'd love to see like Tony, his
Oh yeah,
style,
yeah, yeah.
because the little skull
Ants.
screens and stuff. I'd love to see him do some stuff to like one of the sneaker cups.
No, that's funny you say that because he's one of the first people I contacted. I was like, hey, do
Ah,
you want to do a collaboration? Because I thought the same thing. I'm like, dude,
yeah.
that would look so cool. And then like Kevin Kowalski, like I'm friends with him. He lives close to me. I just did the interview with him, a couple days ago, which will be on before yours.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, dude, like I'll do a Jordan Cup, and you can like milk and diffuse like the swoosh or something, or like,
Sweet.
because I feel like that's such a cool kind of thing. I met, Tim was out here a couple weeks ago and did a workshop at Kevin's. Tim Kowalczyk, the
Right.
cardboard. I'm like, it'd be fun to do like a cardboard sneaker
I was gonna say
collaboration with
you have
him
to.
one day.
I wonder if you can get some of his cardboard material, but then apply your 3D pieces.
Yeah, that's what I was
Like
thinking.
it's
I
the
could just
shoe
build it
cup,
out of slabs
but
and
the
just build
shoe
out of
cup
his
is
stuff.
out of cardboard.
Yeah, yeah. So I know like the Companion Gallery has that show at Insika. It's called like Collaborative Companions, and they have all their artists like working together. And honestly, that's like the show
I,
that I look forward to seeing the most from from an
I,
outside. I'm not
dude,
at Insika, but
I saw those at this year's. It was seriously, I think those were some of the funnest things that I saw were the collaborations. Yeah.
yeah, it's just
Um,
so much fun to see two
it's like
professional
Ashley,
artists coming together.
is it Ashley Bevington?
I love her with the pizza,
Yeah, it's the
the
pizza stuff, but it was
pizza,
on,
the
it was on,
poodles.
it was on the Zach Tate like squishy skull mugs. I mean,
Yeah.
it was like it was too cool.
I don't know her. I've never met her, but I could imagine her like pizza fine a Jordan mug would be freaking cool.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. But yeah, the whole collaborative thing is really cool. Are you looking to do more collaborations in the future with
Oh yeah,
people?
yeah.
Cool.
Actually, is it? I think his name's. I think it's Isaac Shu.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Isaac just messaged me at NCCA. We were talking about because I had the Daruma cups. He's like, I'd love to have you send me some of those. I guess he was on vacation, and I just got a message from him going, "Hey, I don't know if you still want to do this, but if you send me some," he's like, "I'd love to." He does like the lines and
Strips,
stuff.
yeah, kind of the
He's
the
like,
vertical lines.
"Send me some of those. I'd love to put some, do some stuff on them." So I'm casting a few of those up now and try and get them bisque fired and sent off. So I've
That's
got
awesome.
got a couple of new designs in the works. So
Oh, cool. But
it,
based on the same Daruma cup or a different?
different
Cool,
stuff.
cool.
I'm still making the Daruma cups, but I feel like I have like the zombie cups I've kind of done in the Daruma cups, but I feel like I need to do something new.
Hmm.
And then like seeing the stuff you're doing, and um, I think her name is Lynn Lang, Lin
Oh,
Lang.
that name sounds really familiar. I'm sure if I saw
Um,
her work,
she
what
kind
does
of
she
has
do?
these kind of weird, they're like weird soft puppety looking statues, and she does
Oh,
it
yeah,
looks
yeah, yeah.
almost like knitted cups, very kind
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
like little bags almost.
Yeah.
Um, but all of her stuff's very hand built, and I had some ideas to actually trying some hand building,
Oh, cool.
doing press mold stuff. So I I think, I mean, honestly, I've only been doing ceramics. Uh, this year's Ansica actually marks like a year and about 3 months.
Wow.
My my first Ansica I went to 3 months after starting ceramics.
Is that in
Uh,
Pittsburgh or?
uh, first one. Wait, first one was this last one was Minneapolis, right?
Yeah, I think.
So I think the one before that was Pittsburgh,
Yeah, I think so.
or Pennsylvania. Yeah, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Which way you
Um,
got the shirt, right?
yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
PGH.
yeah. Um, so 3 months after starting ceramics, I have a thing that I usually go to each year, and I just couldn't make it work. And I was listening to the Potter's cast, and Paul kept going on about Ensica and
Yeah.
this show, and I'm suddenly like, well, that sounds like fun. And
Yeah.
since I've missed out on my other thing, I'm like, ceramics is kind of like sculpting, so why don't I
Yeah.
look into it? And it was 3 weeks away, so I like buy plane tickets, I register, I start getting messages from like Brian Wilkerson because right before going out, and he's like, well, I'm going to be there, so we should hang out. And I go, and I don't really hear from him, and I'm there for like a couple of days, and like the last 2 days, I get a hold of him. He's hanging out with Tony Young. Tony's got his Jeep there, so we're driving around all these different art shows and the companion gallery thing, and it's stuff that I wouldn't have known about. I wouldn't have gone out and done. I'd have just walked around the convention hall and been like,
Yeah.
another trip around the dealer's room, so buy
Right.
some tools.
Right.
I had the best time hanging out with those guys and meeting people. So to go back this year to Minneapolis, it was the weirdest thing. I'm hanging out with the two of them. I'm staying at an Airbnb with like 15 different other artists.
Oh, hell yeah.
We're walking around, and like Brian, I think he's been to so many of these that like people just walk up to him and they're like, "Hey, Brian," he's like, "Hang on, I gotta
He's
go.
like the
I
mayor of
know this."
Masika.
He's talking to someone and going, "Oh, hey, this is Mike." And he'd introduce her, or people go, "Oh, hey, I know you. You're the guy who does those zombie cups or those Daruma cups. I love those. Those are awesome." And I'm like, "Who am I?"
Yeah,
Like
right.
people are paying attention. What do you mean you know me?
That's cool.
So it was very cool, and I just love that atmosphere of here. It's like, "Okay, I've seen your stuff, or, getting into collaborations or trades." I'll be honest. The first year I went, I had one cup that I brought with me. It was this old tentacle handled thing, and it was the best cup I'd made, and I had the intention of like going to the Potter's Cast meetup with this mug, and I wanted to show it off, and I didn't have the guts to bring it out with me.
Oh, man.
And then going back this year, having a suitcase of cups, doing a pop-up show, talking to people and trading stuff, dude, it was exactly the feeling that I wanted it to be. And I think that first year, I don't think I was ready for that, but I fully embraced that feeling and that camaraderie of people, and people that would rather trade you a cup than sell you a cup
Yeah.
because they
That's
want
so
one of your,
cool.
you know. that's just cool, you know. And I love that collaboration starts, like you said, it feels like it's catching on, and the people are like, send me one of those. I want to do something with it, you know.
Yeah, and just getting to like work with other people is cool. Like, I mean, the collaborative through mail is cool, but even the like working in the same studio together and being like, let's like start from
Yeah,
scratch and bounce an idea and like pass it back and forth.
absolutely.
Like that's something I haven't done in a while. I mean, I've kind of done stuff with. I could probably do it with my students, and I've done stuff
Uh-huh.
like that with my students because I teach high school ceramics, but
Yeah,
I haven't had that kind of experience in a while. So that's something I look forward to doing. Like now that my kids are getting older, I'm able to get out of the house a little more. So
right.
one
I'd
of these days I'm gonna escape
I'd
for a
love to do
week.
that. I'd love to do that, but here's the thing from my point of view, like that I've only been doing ceramics for so long,
Hmm.
and I don't know the answer to this. Like I saw some piece that I think Tim Kowalczyk and maybe it was Kowalski, they'd like
Yeah,
cut a thing in half and stuck the other piece on, and I'm like looking at it going, but aren't those dissimilar materials, and are they gonna fit
oh, do
together? Are
they
they gonna
stick
crack? Are
together?
they? Yeah, you know, and I'm asking them, they're just going, yeah, so
Yeah, I mean,
sure, I get, you know, and I
you
go,
can kind
and
of find the lowest common denominator of like what's the firing temperature that'll work. That both of them,
yeah,
one of them's not gonna fall. Probably wouldn't do like earthenware and like stoneware, but I know they
yeah.
both use like cone 5, cone 10 stonewares, and you can.
But that's what I mean. I'd love to do that, but I don't feel confident enough to go. Here's the thing I've just put you done. You know, slap it onto your thing,
What do
unless
you
like, you
fire
know
your
it's the
stuff
same
at?
body or
What kind of what do you fire your stuff at? What cone?
cone 5.
Okay, yeah. So if you're doing cone 5 stuff, like most people can. I mean, some cone 5 stuff goes up to cone 10. I mean,
Right.
have you taken your stuff to cone 10 yet to see what
I
happens?
My kiln. I have a very tiny scut kiln that
Yeah.
runs on 120. It only
Oh.
supposedly it only hits cone 6.
Oh. Yeah. No.
I don't know whether it's physically limited to that or at 120 if the elements will just never get hot enough to go past
Yeah.
it. Um, so I'm stuck at 5.6. I could probably get cone 10 clay and make something and send it to somebody, but I've never taken stuff to 10 myself because I just don't have the capacity to.
Yeah. No, you wouldn't want to do that in your kiln. I'm just wondering if you put in someone else's. I'm
Yeah.
just curious. That would be something good to know. If the clay that you're using,
Yeah.
as it is, works at cone 10, then you don't have to do anything different. And you can. You just got to find someone that's firing to cone 10 that you could
Yeah.
just throw a test piece in to see, like, hey, can I see if how much this slumps or melts or not at all? Because I know there are
Right.
quite a few cone 5 clays that I've used that work at cone 10 and hold up pretty good. But I guess that's one of those.
But if it has that broad a range, like 5 to 10, is it really vitrified at 5, or is it like, are you walking the line? Is it? It's like,
You'd have
look,
to ask
you're better off.
Aardvark. I know I've taken cone 5 Nara, and I've taken, which is a Aardvark clay, and I've taken cone 5 Nara to cone 10, and it's been fine. And I've taken cone 5 B mix from Aardvark to cone 10, and they were fine, and I didn't really notice a big difference. But I've been at cone 10 for a long time. Now I'm going down to cone 5. So like I know those cone 5 clays at cone 10 are vitrified, and I feel like at cone 5 that I've done already, I'm like, they feel like they're pretty well vitrified. Because
Right.
when I do the polishing of the clay, like I definitely can see the quality of the vitrification, but
Are
it's one of
the
those things. But speaking of kind of like going back and forth between like ceramics and then like the resin special effects industry, like
Yeah.
what are the like what's the like I got to imagine there's a lot of similarities, but then there's got to be some like differences. So like what's kind of like I guess yeah, like what's kind of the differences and similarities of going between like the making resin figures and then making like ceramics and then like is your process much different? Like your thought
that
process, materials process?
the odd thing is that like the a lot of the process is the similarity. Like slip casting a cup in clay, in clay slip, is
Hmm.
very similar to doing a slip latex mask.
Oh,
It's just
okay.
that instead of pouring clay into your
Yeah.
plaster mold, you're pouring. So a lot of that's similar. It's just thought process, like going, okay, I know that if I'm slip casting a cup, my mold making process is the same. I still have to lay up a clay wall. I'm still hitting that halfway point. I just know that pulling a clay slip piece out versus a rubber slip piece, I have to be more aware of undercuts. And I actually find, like in sculpting, like my zombie cup, I think Turkey saw me demolding one time, and it's a 2-piece mold, and he's like, "Wow, you managed to get that out of a 2-piece." So, most of my molds are like 3, 4, 5 pieces, and it's because when I sculpted it, I was very aware of like looking at all of the undercuts and going, right, when I sculpt it, I'm going to sculpt out those undercuts so that I can very carefully get it out of a 2-piece. It rubs a little bit on the nose, but I'm like, oh, I can get in and retexture that a little and clean it up. So finishing is way easier. Resin pieces, you can just paint them and they're done, or sand and paint. That's the biggest thing I found with ceramics, is that even once you've got your finished piece, there's still that, right, now I have to glaze it or underglaze it and then refire it. And at the end of the day, you might even go, hey, this piece is not great. The glaze completely changed color, or, it didn't vitrify now, or it's cracked,
Yeah.
So if anything, it's, for me, I'm trying to get used to that sense of, and become more comfortable in the process. Especially since I don't mix any of my own glazes. I don't wedge, pug mill any of my own clay. It's right out of the bag, and
that's okay.
I think you said on one of your podcasts, you were like, I don't do a bunch of tests. This cup is the test.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, I've done it long enough that I just kind of like, if I'm using commercial stuff, I'm like, I have enough faith in their testing that if you say it's going to be this color at this temperature, or this clay is going to look like this, like, it's probably going to be close enough for me. But I'm not I'm not selling on like a commercial level, or I'm not doing commissions where people are like have an expectation. Like, I'm fortunate that I don't make a living on my art. I make a living teaching high school, so I can do whatever I want with my own art, and not like beholden to like, I didn't sell enough cups, so my kids aren't going to eat. So I'm lucky like that.
I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm looking at, I would rather that each cup is kind of an artwork in itself. I'm not trying to turn out, a dozen dinnerware sets where it's like the color has to remain consistent. You want them all matching. I'm kind of like, I'm making a cup that's a one-off piece, and I'm hoping that each one is a bit unique, and I'd like to be a little more comfortable, I think, in the process and the materials, but that'll come with time. And would probably make me more comfortable to say, right, I'm going to send you a greenware piece, or I'm going to come to your studio and we'll chop them in half and stick them together, because I know that they're compatible,
Yeah. It's,
but
I guess,
it'll come with time.
all in good time. All in good time. Like you said, you're still kind of new in the ceramics game, so there's a lot of I'm sure there'll be a lot of cool opportunities to come up, in that respect, because your stuff's already pretty awesome, like as it is now, for only doing it for a short amount of time. But I mean, all the work you've done up until then is kind of what set the foundation. So it sounds like the process is not that dissimilar, that you're able to kind of take everything you've done before and apply it.
I think it, because I'm comfortable using materials like clays and stuff and mold making, I can find a way to that finished product. I have a certain sense of finish that I want on it. Certain that, and I know how to get there. It's just I have to get more comfortable with the process to get there. And but knowing what I know, I can cheat it a little bit.
Yeah. We're all good artists are good cheaters. We know when we can break the rules, and we know when we can. This isn't worth. This isn't worth it, or like, let's take a chance. So, I mean, like,
for me, like, I know that wheel throwing right now, I need way more practice on wheel throwing. That's not my strong suit. But no, like the very first cup I ever made in this class that I took, it was this other class. They hadn't taught me wheel throwing, and they didn't know that I'd taken this other class and that I had worked on a wheel. So they were very much like, no, you can't use the wheels until you take the wheel throwing class, even though I had, but just at another place. So I literally sat down and went, right, I don't want to hand build. I'm going to make a cup, but rather than hand build it or pattern it, I literally sculpted a cup shape, sculpted a face into it, and then proceeded to scoop out the whole thing. I basically sculpted a cup.
Yeah.
And it was my dumb way of getting, of cheating my way towards what I wanted. When what I really wanted to do is throw a cup form and then sculpt a face on it.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't let me throw it, so it's like I'm gonna cheat my way to it. I can sculpt a cup.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that again, but you know what I mean. It's like I know that I can sculpt a cool looking cup, make a mold of it, and slip cast it. And I can get a better result doing that than wheel throwing and modifying and until I get better at wheel throwing. So it's cheating to the end result, but I'm still interested in learning the other processes better.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I'm so probably how you feel about the potter's wheel. That's kind of how I feel about like mold making. Like I have a lot of experience on the wheel. I have a lot of experience hand building. I have a lot of experience with like the kind of foundational aspects of ceramics, but never in my like formal ceramics education did I really have like a part of my curriculum was like we're going to really learn how to make molds. It was like a workshop here and there, like a guest speaker, like a graduate student doing a demo. I made a couple press molds in my life. I helped some friends do some slip casting for like a project they were doing, but I have very little like mold making. Like I have enough experience to know how to make like a two-part mold for like if I wanted to make a cup. Like I could do that, but I don't feel like I have a lot of like I wouldn't want to teach it to a bunch of people that knew ceramics. If I had to teach it to my beginning ceramics kids, like, hey, we're gonna make a little press mold. I know I could do that, but so yeah, I totally feel you on like there's so much more to learn in this aspect in this world of ceramics than just what we already know.
Yeah,
which makes it really exciting and interesting because it's like we don't know anything. We know a lot, but in the world of ceramics, there's so much like there's so many techniques and processes that are out there that we can still experiment with that it never gets old. So like where you said you're gonna like you're thinking about starting some new work, like where do you now, as with all the experience you have, where are you looking for, like where are you getting your new inspiration from, or do you go back to the same resources or
no, it's I have there's certain subjects and things that or design aesthetic really that I kind of like. So it sounds weird, but I'm looking at like Tim's cardboard cups, your shoe cups, Mitchell Spain's trompe l'oeil, flasks and stuff, and I'm kind of going, I want to take the techniques that I do know and kind of go, what's the thing that I can kind of start doing? Like I mean, I love the Daruma cup because there is that space to play on it, to play with glazes and to play with design and stuff. And I still like playing with those. They're great for collaboration, but I'm kind of like, I want to find something that's kind of my thing, or that I can explore beyond just making one or two of those cups and going, right, what's that thing, I want to find something that I can sort of play with, glaze, because I think the thing I'm not comfortable with yet is really like the glaze applications. There's so many times I'll do a cup and I'll put a glaze on there, fire it, and be like, right, well, there goes that cup. It's that's the worst glaze choice in the world, or it didn't flow the way I wanted it to, or I didn't put it in enough. That was part of the reason too of getting the slip casting is I wanted to be able to make 4 of them, put the glaze on, and have a chance of one of them or 2 of them being the way I want it to, without having to go, right, I've just spent 5 hours sculpting this cup, I put glaze on it, and I'm unhappy with it.
Well, you should just do more testing, You should be more diligent about testing your materials before you invest in all these hard projects.
Now, if I do slip casting, though, I can run 4 test cups. You know what I mean?
I was joking. I was being an idiot because I don't test anything.
Yeah.
in 5 to 10 years from now, like where do you see yourself, and like what do you want to be? Do you want to still be doing like kind of have your foot in kind of special effects and the resin and the ceramics? You just want to keep the three-pronged approach of just keeping
Why?
super busy, or is there any one you'd rather like focus on, or?
I think so. I mean, I can't. It's hard for me to step away from effects because it's what I know, and it definitely pays me well enough to survive and to live. Um, as far as the ceramics and the resin kits, my feeling is as long as people are still interested in buying them, I can definitely see sticking with them. I mean, the three-prong approach seems to be working.
Yeah,
It's really just a matter of uh, where how much time I have and how much time I can devote to different ones.
yeah. Well, being
I mean,
diverse is a good.
yeah. I mean,
Diversity is a
obviously,
good thing. With all the things that you've done, have you had any major like disasters? Like as far as like
yes.
hundreds and hundreds of hours of work going down the drain besides the like Men in Black project? I'm sure you probably have a lot of stories.
uh, I mean, well,
Just in general, as far as an
in
artist, even
general, or
yeah, just like art disasters where you're just like, I just screwed up really
no,
big, and
no. Usually there haven't really been too many like screw ups. I'm knock on wood. I'm pretty lucky that way. I tend to be pretty diligent with the steps. I mean, the ceramics specific. Right before I went to NCCA, I had. I mean, it's not a lot. I think my kiln only holds like 8 cups.
mm-hmm.
So, but I had 2 batches of cups, so like 16 cups in total. That for whatever reason, I had pinging and
Yeah.
noises, and I'd leave them filled with water overnight, and they're leaking, and I'm like, I have this pop-up show, and I don't have any cups to bring, and I finally managed to get enough cups that I had something to bring, but it was this frantically slip casting and drying and bisque firing, glazing over and over, and only to open and go, oh, they all seem good, and then you leave filled with water, and the next morning it's like this batch too. What's going on?
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm playing with different clays and glazes and trying to figure out what happened with those. But stuff's better, and I mean that's like it's probably everybody's ceramic stories. It's like when something goes wrong and suddenly you're like, I'm doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
What's
What's the
different? What's
difference?
changed?
Yeah.
As far as effect stuff, I've been pretty lucky. I don't think I've had anything that really didn't work out. I mean, Men in Black, like I said, that stomach thing and changing into something that I kind of went, what the heck? At the end of the day, it's still, I still enjoy it. I think I escaped relatively easily on that project. The shop in general had built a full scale version of the bug thing at the end, and the director saw it and went, "Wow, this is amazing! It's fantastic! It's great. I just don't know how I'm going to shoot it." And they never used the puppet. They completely replaced it with CGI.
That's just crazy
So,
to think like, so you guys are building this with like, I mean, do you guys even, I mean, do you have like a budget you have, because they're just having you build stuff and you don't
oh
use
yeah,
it? They just have
yeah,
like, that's just why movies cost millions of dollars, because they just waste. Is that
yeah,
just kind of normal?
probably, yeah.
That's crazy.
So I mean, in that case, it wouldn't be just one person's. Oh, this cost. This was a huge failure. Uh, Even then, it's not like it's a failure. It just comes down to someone going,
It's not
I'm
my
not sure.
vision.
Yeah,
It's not my
I'm not
vision for
sure.
this movie.
Yeah,
It's not my vision. In my head, it looks different, man. And that's got to
exactly.
be
Yeah.
so frustrating. Like, I, I'm so fortunate I don't have to do art for other people
I
because
mean,
I
I
would
mean,
be, it would drive me nuts. Like, it would drive me nuts.
luckily from the effects point, you've turned in your budget. Your budget's already been approved. You still get paid for it, but
Right.
like you said,
It's your
it
time.
goes into the overall budget, and if it just means they have to recoup that loss in box office, and you
Yeah, but it's just for your
it's
guys'
also
end,
the
it's like that's your
disappointment.
time.
Yeah,
I guess
and
it's
it's the disappointment.
experience, so you have that experience under your belt as far as like, well, I've done this, I've had this vision before, so add it to my tool belt. But at the same time, like, oh my God, we worked so long on this work, and then no one ever gets to see what it looks like. And I
Yeah.
imagine you probably have quite a few of those kinds of things. I know you have a really cool picture on your Instagram. It's like a little finger with a little cut and two little dots. It's
Oh, dude.
why so serious? So I was gonna ask you, kind of, do you have any good injuries that you've gotten in your special effects life?
Doug, you dug really deep into my Instagram
I
to
did. I
find
went.
that
I
one
just
image.
kind of like scrolled through.
I think that was way back when I started Instagram, and
Yeah, I
I
think it
just
is.
don't think I had
2013.
anything to. Yeah, I had nothing to post that day, and I kind of went, oh, I think I cut my finger at work, and I went, oh, it's kind of like the Joker's smile, and it was kind of like, um,
I think it's a beautiful picture, and the little why so serious. I don't know why. It's like that's a great. I think that's a
oh,
great image. Like I'm looking at it right now, and I think it's just like that should be like a motivate like one of those motivational posters you see above people's office. Like I want to literally like print that out and just like put it on my desk and just be like, why so
I suppose
serious? Like I
should
don't know.
post it on the bandsaw, right?
Yeah, or something. I don't know. I just think that's a great. I think that's a great image. No, but no major injuries that you, any
Um,
stitches or broken bones from.
no broken bones, no stitches. Um, I I think the most I think I've cracked my ribs twice.
Wow. In the name of
Um,
art or work?
no, doing stupid things at
Oh,
work,
okay.
like dropping something and jump up a little to reach it, and you land on your ribs and crack them. It's quite painful, and doctor just kind of goes, "Yep, you probably cracked your ribs. We can't really put a cast on or
Yeah.
anything. Just they'll heal. You just have to be careful, and
Yeah.
so that
Don't take too deep of a breath.
yeah, I think I've got a sliver of metal in my eye.
Ooh.
Grinding stuff, and you catch like a little spark that manages to just go
Get through
in
the
the hole of the
glasses. Yeah.
goggles. And you wake up the next morning, and you go, "Oh, my eye, it's all scratchy. Oh, there's
Oh.
a speck on my eye. Maybe I should go get that taken care of."
Wow.
But nothing, no broken bones or anything like that. That's
So
probably the worst of
those are good
it.
answers though. I think those are good answers.
They're all things I don't want to do again.
Yeah. If you do you have your phone with you right there?
Yes.
I just sent you a message with the questions in case you want to read them.
Oh, alrighty. Let's see.
So Tony Young sent a few.
Do
So
I know Paul? Oh, Paul Rubens,
yeah.
aka.
Yeah. Do you know Paul Herman or Paul Rubens, aka Pee Wee Herman?
Yes, I do.
Wow.
Well, not personally, but he did a live show that started off here in LA. It was at I think it's called the Kodak Theater or something, or it's a theater down here. But he did a live version of his show, and I was friends with the one of the companies that was producing a lot of the because he has lots of characters in the show, puppet characters and
Yeah.
things. And at the very last minute, they had built a thing. One of the characters is magic screen. It's like an easel that has like a face on it, and they
Is that
put
from Pee Wee's
wheels on it.
Playhouse?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think I
it was
remember. I used to
like
watch Pee Wee's Playhouse. I remember when I was younger, we'd go outside real quick and do something, and come inside and watch Pee Wee's Playhouse, and be like, "This is the best show ever."
oh yeah. So it was a live action version of the show.
Okay,
So,
that sounds
so
awesome.
they built a version of the character. Originally, they just wanted to roll in and then roll back out. They were going to put a wire on it and pull it out. They then went, "Hey, it'd be great if we could drive it in and make it a little bit more mobile." And the effects guys I worked for went, "Great, we'll just put an RC car under it." And they did that, and the RC car wasn't strong enough, so they put a bigger one under it. It still wasn't strong enough. They went, "If we're going to do this, we got to do it right. We'll call Mike." So I come in and I'm like, yes, I can do it. I'll build a robotic platform, four-wheeled thing, radio control.
Yeah.
You'll be able to drive it in and out, no problem. Paul Rubin is like, great. We start, soft open in 2 days. If you can finish it in 2 days, it's in the show. If you can't finish it in 2 days, it's being cut completely from the show. I went, great. I can do it in 2 days, but I'm going to leave right now.
Yeah, I got to go to work.
48 hours on it, and we'll deliver it to you for your opening. And I came home. I had like I used to build radio controlled robots for like Robot Wars and BattleBots and
Oh
stuff.
wow.
So I had a lot of stuff in my garage still, and I basically built a platform for it. We bolted it to this thing. I didn't sleep for 48 hours. I took it back to the effects shop. They finished. We took it there, drove it around. Paul went, fantastic, great. I can't thank you enough. Free tickets to the opening night. Went and saw it. It was a smash hit. It then went to Broadway in New York. They shipped the whole thing off there. It continued through the run of Broadway. I think they filmed a video of it that's on DVD. So
Oh wow.
it's been immortalized now. And basically, I get text messages and I get a Christmas card from him every year.
That's awesome.
It's the weirdest thing in the world because like the first year I didn't know who it was, and I'm getting kind of these like suggestive gifts and stuff of like women with cleavage and birthday cakes, and I'm like going, thank you. Who is this? Do I know you? It is my birthday, but I don't know what to say. And then he kind of lets slide. So again, I don't know if it's just PR people. I don't know if it's him personally, but it's hilarious, and I love that I still get cards and things.
That's really
I don't know
cool.
her. I did do a favor, and it seems like he's very appreciative.
That's really
Even
cool.
to this day.
I'm a Pee Wee Herman fan. Part of my childhood. Next one from Tony is, what's the coolest movie you worked on?
Let's see. Coolest movie I've worked on. I'll give you a series of movies because they're all cool to me for different reasons.
Yeah, I was gonna say it might be hard to pick one.
And some of them, it's not necessarily that the movie is cool, but it's cool that I got to be a part of its legacy. Because sometimes it's like I'm working on part 3 or 4.
Right.
Because I really liked the original one, although 3 and 4 are not the best entries.
So which are some of your favorites that
I
you
would
worked on?
say I worked on the movie Gone Girl, which was cool just because it's David Fincher, and I love David Fincher as a director. So that was cool. Men in Black was cool. I still like having worked on the Elm Street films, on Elm Street 5, 6, and 7, because Freddy was my whole childhood. Working on the Hellraiser movies because again, that's my childhood, and it was me wanting to get into the industry.
Yeah.
I didn't get to work on the entire thing, but I was working at Henson's briefly, doing some pilot stuff for the Dark Crystal TV series that's going.
Oh wow.
It was basically the pitch reel, so I was building like sketch hands and stuff like that. I wish I could have worked on the show. That just didn't work out, but that was kind of like a bit of me, again, going back to that childhood and loving that movie and the design and stuff like that. So it's various things like that. I mean, it's the Hellraiser films, Freddy films, getting to work with David Fincher on his film, and Men in Black was cool. Can't knock.
Yeah, that's really, really cool.
Pumpkinhead.
Oh, Pumpkinhead.
Got to do Pumpkinhead 3 and 4. That was the 3 and 4 I was referring to.
Oh, okay.
The creature effects were good. I loved that creature from the original film, and it was cool getting to work on that series. I'm in the suit, so I got to play Pumpkinhead, which is
really?
But
wow.
I can't say that 3 and 4 are great films, but the effects are awesome, and it was a great time.
You're Pumpkinhead?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I've played a lot of creatures through the years of working on a lot of these things.
Kind of get into the suit.
Yeah.
That's cool. And then there's I sent you another image with another thing, and it says, favorite little rascal. It says Alpha, but I'm thinking it's
Alfalfa?
Alfalfa or Spanky? Or was it another? I mean, dude, I've always liked buckwheat. Maybe it's the Eddie Murphy buckwheat, but
it's weird. I mean, Spanky was always a bit too. There was a little bit of mean-spiritedness behind what he was up to. So, yeah, and Alfalfa was a bit too goody-goody.
Yeah.
I was maybe.
Oh, look at that Froggy guy. I like that guy. I got a funny voice.
Froggy, yeah. Froggy, just because of the funny voice, maybe.
Yeah, but I always remember buckwheat. That was. All right. Looks like we're over an hour, so
Excellent.
I think about time. I think it's good to end on Little Rascals to date ourselves a little bit. People are like,
Yeah,
people are younger than 30 are probably like, what the heck are the Little Rascals? Oh, Little Rascals. That was that movie that came out. Like,
exactly.
they're like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
they don't realize it was
they'll
an
be like,
old
"Oh, the
TV show.
movie."
Yeah. Anyways, so if you got any plugs you wanna, or you got any new movies that are coming out we want us to check out, or if we want to, do you have a website or your Instagram? And your Instagram is at MikeFX. And then anything else that's
Yes, not really. Movie stuff. I worked very briefly on it at the shop, but there's a movie called Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I think that's coming out. It's September or August.
cool.
Basically, the shop I was at did that. Um, I think the only other thing, which no one's really going to care, but I was in a bunch of farmers insurance commercials in a bear suit. So
Oh really?
not that I'm saying, hey, rush out and see that, but
Well, I'll
yeah,
try to find it and I'll put it in the video.
if it's I don't think it's out yet,
Oh,
but in the next couple of months, if you see an Olympic swimmer bear, that's probably me sweating
that's
to death underneath the
that's
bear
awesome.
suit.
And do you have a
Otherwise,
website?
no, mostly everything goes on Instagram.
Yeah.
That's like my main
See,
platform for getting stuff out there.
yeah, that's kind of the place to be.
I've got MikeFX.com, but it goes to a little web store for selling resin figures. So
Okay,
best
well,
bet is just check out Instagram. I kind of update and put everything I'm up to there, unless it's top secret stuff I can't post online.
yeah, I bet you there's probably some of those in the works. Well, cool. Well, I think this was a really fun conversation, and there's a couple little technical things, but hopefully everyone enjoyed it. And
Hopefully those.
yeah, I'll cut and paste it and try to make it sound like, you know, like smooth as silk. So, anyways, I'll see you on the other side of this button, and thanks for hanging out.
Absolutely.
Cool. Hey, thanks for watching or listening to my conversation with Mike Regan, aka MikeFX. Update on the stickers: if you send me a direct message to @clay is a four-letter word on Instagram, I will happily send you some stickers. I ask that you try to subscribe on one of the platforms that this is on: iTunes or YouTube or Spotify or Google Podcast or Stitcher or Anchor, wherever you're listening to this. If you rate, review, and subscribe, that helps me out a lot. Thanks again to Mike Regan for being my guest, and my wife and kids for putting up with me. Next Tuesday, I'll have my next guest will be Shayna Saloff. Shayna and I were both grad students at the same time at Cal State Fullerton in 2006 to 2000, 2005 to 2008, I guess, somewhere in there. So yeah, it'll be fun to catch up with her and kind of see where she's at. We haven't seen each other in a few years, so it'll be good to catch up. You can follow @Clay is a four-letter word and @Ryan Reich Ceramics on Instagram. You can also find it on Facebook, even though it seems like it's kind of dead over there, at least for me. Instagram is probably the best place to get a hold of me. If you have questions for future guests, I will be posting it in the stories the day before. So stay tuned. If you see I posted something in my Instagram stories on Clay is a four-letter word, that probably means it's a guest. So I haven't really been posted much on there, but I should try to do that. Anyways, my name is Ryan Reich, and thanks again for hanging out with me and Mike today on Clay is a four-letter word. Peace.